Hello everyone, welcome to my seminar. Today we're going to learn how to talk about movies. So let's get started. We'll start off with an introduction. Movies have been entertaining us for over 100 years, and most of us watch many of them every year, of course. But how do we talk about movies? Today we're going to find out. Some objectives to get us going. We'll learn technical terms, very important, learn about movie people, some key figures, and of course, learn how to chat about movies, how to have simple, natural conversations about movies. Let's move on and we'll take a look at our first slide here. We're dealing with an overview. Movies, or films, are an art form, but they're also an important form of entertainment. We'll come back to art form and entertainment in a moment. For now, let's quickly just go over that vocabulary, movie and films. They're both the same term for the same thing. You can use either one. I would say that movie is slightly more common than film, but as I say, both are fine. You can choose whichever one you prefer. So an art form, like painting, writing books, or even music, they're all art forms. But unlike paintings, movies are also entertainment. As well as making you think and feel, they should also be enjoyable for the time that you're experiencing them. So they are entertaining. They are a form of entertainment. But they're also socially important too. We enjoy watching them when we're with our friends, on dates, and we like to talk about them with family, friends, even our colleagues at work. So they're involved in an important social process. So it's also important to be able to talk about them well. These days, moviegoers and audiences are more aware than ever of the process of filmmaking and the language of cinema. First of all, moviegoers, literally people who go to movies, and audiences, a more general term for anyone or all the people who watch films and TV as well. And in terms of the process of filmmaking, the language of cinema, it's certainly true in the last few decades, ordinary people have become a lot more aware of that process and the language we use to describe filmmaking, especially in a technical sense. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next few slides. For now, let's finish off with this important point. Movies are divisive. They divide people, especially in terms of opinion. People often have very different opinions on the same film. Two people watch the same film. One person thinks it's fantastic, exciting, enjoyable. The other person thinks it's boring, unenjoyable, and not interesting. Same as a painting. One person looks at a painting and they think it's beautiful. Another person looks at the same painting and thinks it's ugly. So art and entertainment are normally very divisive. And again, later we'll talk about how that comes into our conversations as well. Just quickly, let's go over our vocabulary from this slide. Art form, entertainment, moviegoer, audience, cinema, divisive. Okay, let's all move on. We'll take a look at our next slide. Genres, a difficult word, genres. Hopefully a word a lot of you will have heard before. Different types of movie are known as genres. Same with music as well. The different types are our different genres. With movies, we'll talk about that in a moment, what our different genres are. It's worth pointing out first, though, that a lot of people have a favorite genre, or maybe even two or three that they really enjoy. And a lot of common genres are listed here. We've got action, comedy, romance, drama, horror, mystery, and thriller. Of course, there are others like crime, for example, but these are very, very common ones. And indeed, when we have favorites, you might think that action movies are your favorite type of movie, or maybe comedies. Speaking of which, we can combine genres. Two or more genres can be combined in one movie, like an action comedy, or very often rom-com. Rom for romance, com for comedy. Put them together, we've got rom-com. Those have become very popular in recent years. Now, here's an interesting thing to say. Some movies are genre-defying. Genre-defying. They defy genre, which means it's difficult or even impossible to classify them with any single genre or specific type. So like we said before, most movies can be referred to as action, thriller, horror, or action comedy, horror romance. It's not common, but it might happen. But genre-defined movies, it's difficult to give them a single genre or a combination of genres. Either they have so many different genres that we can't use one or two, or they feel so unique that we almost don't have the right word for it yet. So it defies genre. One last interesting genre is the idea of a biopic. A biopic is a movie that's made about a real-life person or a famous historical figure, like a politician or a musician. For example, in the 90s, there was a movie made about Gandhi, the famous Indian political figure. At the moment, right now, they are making a biopic about Freddie Mercury, the lead singer of the very famous band Queen. So it's very common to make biopics. And again, recently we had one about Stephen Hawking, the famous British scientist. People really like a movie about a person's life. Before we move on from here, let's take a quick recap of our vocab: genre, mystery, rom-com, genre-defying, and biopic. Let's move on again. And here we're getting into some really important terms for movies. The key figures, our people, key figures. The first of which, of course, has to be our director. The director of a film is responsible for its artistic direction. That's how it looks, how it feels, as well as organizing different elements of production. That's organizing the right people to be in the right place at the right time, making sure the right cameras are used, the right lights are used. So they've really got to bring so many different elements together to make one whole movie. Also important is our writer. They're responsible for producing a script. Now, the actors read lines, the lines are the words from the script, but it also provides all the scenes for the movie. So the script might contain all the lines people speak, but it also says, this person goes here, they're now in this building, and they drive a car to here. So the script details everything that happens in the movie, and the writer creates that. They really create the story of the movie. It's worth pointing out that sometimes the writer and director are the same single person. That's known as a writer-director. They write the movie, and then they film it. They know exactly what they want from their own story. Also very important, we couldn't make a movie without them. It's our cast. The cast is all the actors and actresses in the movie. Some films have a large cast, like the Lord of the Rings movies. It has 10, 20, maybe 30 big actors and actresses in it. Some movies have just a small cast, maybe 2 or 3 people. A few rare films have a cast of just one single person. It's also worth mentioning our vocabulary here, actors and actresses. As you probably know, an actor is a man in a movie or TV show, and an actress is a woman. However, these days it has become quite common to use the word actor to refer to both. So an actor could be a man in a movie or a woman in a movie. So if you want, you can separate the terms, actor for men, actress for women, or you can just use that one word, actor, to describe all of them. Also, we've got our editor. He or she takes all of the footage and puts it together in a visually pleasing and logical way. Just quickly to describe footage, let's take a look at our picture over here. We've got our director or our cameraman. He's using a camera here, and with that camera, he shoots footage, everything that comes into that camera, and then we take the film or the video, we give it to our editor, and they take all of that and they put it together. They take that bit and that bit, put it together there, so they go together in a sequence. And they can really change the feel and the speed of a movie. If we take lots of different elements, lots of different scenes and sequences, we put them together quickly as an editor, we might create quite an exciting, fast movie. If we let sequences play out for a long time without interruption, the movie might feel more dramatic, slower paced, more tense, for example. And again, you do find a lot of the times that your director will also be the editor, because again, they know what they want, so they do it themselves. Not all the time, but it does happen. Lastly, some people would say very importantly, is our composer. They create the score for the film. The score is the music for the film. Often, that might be a classical score, violins, flutes, cellos, and sometimes that might be a more modern sounding score, but often it is classical. A great example of a great Western film composer would be John Williams. He created some of the most famous scores for movies in the past 3 decades or even more, maybe 4 decades. For example, John Williams created the scores for the Indiana Jones movies, Star Wars, Superman, really classic, iconic pieces of music. We'll talk a little bit more about the music of films in a moment, in a slide or two. For now, let's take a look at our vocabulary before we move on. Director, writer, script, cast, editor, composer. Really important people and things for movies. It's almost impossible to talk about movies without them at some point, for sure.